Be Wealthy and Smart, episode 1082.
Step into a world of wealth and financial freedom without budgets, boredom, or bosses on Be Wealthy and Smart. And now, here's your host, Linda P. Jones.
Welcome to Be Wealthy and Smart. I'm Linda P. Jones, America's Wealth Mentor, empowering women and men worldwide to financial freedom. On today's show, we're going to talk about should you buy a house or rent? Because people are buying homes, they're not waiting, other people are selling homes and renting for a while, and yet others are renting and waiting to see if the housing market declines in the future. I have my definite ideas about that I'll share with you, but I thought this article was interesting because there's a lot going on in the housing market. It gives us fresh, up-to-date information from agents who are telling us what's happening in the market currently with interest rates, what's affecting purchase decisions, how that's going. Now, of course, markets are all different across the country and across the globe, but I think it's interesting to hear what people are dealing with and what their thought process is when they're deciding whether they want to rent or buy a home. So this is from USA Today, and it says, in just 6 months, Sam Brinton, a real estate agent in Salt Lake City, has witnessed a complete reversal in buyer sentiment. It's a night and day difference, he says. Last year, even as the pandemic housing market pushed home prices ever higher and bidding wars were an expected part of the home buying process, buyers were motivated enough to stay in the game. The last few months have been the opposite. They are confused and hesitant now. Many buyers are sitting on the sidelines because the market has cooled down so much, says Brinton. The cooling housing market has further fueled the demand for rental units, driving rental prices even higher. Why are people thinking about renting? It's been a nerve-wracking time for home buyers grappling with still soaring home prices for existing homes despite rising inventory, falling home sales, and volatile interest rates. The average 30-year mortgage rate went from 3.22% on January 6th to 5.55% on August 25th, according to Freddie Mac. Existing home sales fell for the sixth consecutive month, with sales down 6% from June and 20% from a year ago. The wait and watch approach by buyers is prompting a high share of home sellers to drop their asking price. More than 15% of home sellers dropped their asking price in the 97 largest U.S. metropolitan areas, according to a report from Redfin. In pandemic boom towns, it was much more drastic. In Salt Lake City, for instance, 56% of homes for sale had a price drop in July. Nearly 70% of homes for sale in Boise, Idaho had a price drop in July, the highest share of the 97 metros. Last year, the market forces pushed you into a home and pushed you into doing it sooner than you wanted. It was like, now, high, says Brinton. Whereas now the market forces are pulling you away. Even someone who's ready to go is kind of dragging their feet. The median existing home sales price climbed 11% from a year ago to $403,800 in July, marking 125 consecutive months of year-over-year increases. However, it was down by $10,000 from June's record high of $413,800, according to the National Association of Realtors. So should you buy or rent a home? The median monthly asking rent in the United States surpassed $2,000 for the first time in May, rising 15% year over year to a record high of $2,002. Asking rents were up over 30% in Cincinnati, Seattle, and Nashville, Tennessee, and nearly 50% in Austin, Texas. In July, the national median asking rent was up 14% year over year to $2,032. Rent prices have gone up in the last 18 months much faster than any other time in recent history, says housing analyst Logan Matashami. So the question is, can you tolerate the rent increases on a yearly basis? With a home purchase, even at a higher interest rate, a buyer is opting for a fixed payment plan. And if mortgage rates go down next year, homebuyers have the option to refinance. It's a savagely unhealthy housing market in the sense that mortgage rates have gone up so much and home prices are still rising, says Madashami. So there's a lot of people who just simply can't afford to buy a house after this year, so they're going to be renting no matter what. Brenton says a client who is relocating from Maine to Salt Lake City spent a few weeks looking for a home before deciding to explore the rental market. A few weeks later, she was back wanting to resume her house hunting. She realized that renting was an expensive option. Rental prices are so high here, and they are only going higher as more and more people have dropped out due to interest rates. While nationally it is still more expensive in terms of monthly payments to buy, $2,316, and that's assuming a 5% down payment, than it is to rent, which is $2,016 or $300 a month cheaper. In some markets, such as Fort Lauderdale and Miami in Florida, Cincinnati, Detroit, and Boston, it is now cheaper to buy a home than to rent. The downside of waiting to buy a home is that you'll have to sign a lease if you need a place to stay, and it's not a second home, says Daryl Fairweather, chief economist at Redfin. And that lease is going to be expensive. A lot of those would-be homebuyers are turning to the rental market, and that's sustaining demand on the rental side, even as people's budgets are pinched by higher inflation and higher interest rates. Are we in a housing recession? For new home construction, yes, according to the experts. Rising mortgage rates and higher costs of construction are causing a housing recession, says Robert Dietz, the chief economist at the National Home Builders Association. Builder confidence fell for 8 straight months in August as elevated interest rates, ongoing supply chain problems, and high home prices continue to exacerbate housing affordability challenges, according to an association survey. Nearly 1 in 5 home builders reported reducing prices by roughly 5% in the past month to increase sales or limit cancellations. New home sales were nearly 30% lower in July compared with July of last year. For existing homes, including single-family homes, townhomes, condominiums, and co-ops, sales fell 20% year over year in July, according to the National Association of Realtors. While all 4 major U.S. regions experienced year-over-year sales declines, the Northeast region saw an uptick in month-over-month sales. Buyers also have more to choose from, with unsold inventory now at a 3.3-month supply, up from 3 months in June and 2.5 months in June 2021. Months supply refers to the number of months it would take for the current inventory of homes on the market to sell given the current sales pace. Historically, 6 months of supply is associated with moderate price appreciation, and a lower level of month supply tends to push prices up more rapidly. The national inventory level is still below 2019 levels, and so another wave of lowered mortgage rates could keep the home price growth in the high single digits, says Madashami. If you plan on living in your new home for 2 years or less, it is better to rent, says Lawrence Yoon, the chief economist for the National Association of Realtors. If it's more than 5 years, it makes sense to buy. If you financially qualify for a house in the neighborhood you want to live in, it's a good idea to buy, he says. The chance of a price decline is probably minimal, but if it does occur, it'll be only for a short duration. But if you don't buy, you're just paying rent, and then higher rent, then further higher rent with each passing year, and one could potentially miss out on the price gains. Buying a home? Plan for a long game. Scott Golub and his wife Anne Marie recently confronted that decision. The couple is moving from their apartment in Queens to their new home in Pleasantville, New York this week. After having spent more than a year looking for homes in the area and losing out on multiple homes, the couple, who has a 4-year-old daughter and another child on the way, found a home that was close to schools, easily accessible to the downtown, and had a good-sized yard, checking all the boxes. After being outbid more than 3 times over the past year, they made an all-cash offer with help from Anne Marie's parents. The couple paid $940,000, or $90,000 above the asking price, for the 2,300 square foot home listed at $850,000. The house hit every box we wanted, he said. We didn't want to take a chance on losing out on it. Natalia Wixom, Golub's agent, said the couple had done their homework and were confident buyers. In the coming months with rising inventory, sellers will have to prepare homes better and price them more carefully, says Wixom. Asked if he was worried about the softening housing market, Golub said it wasn't a concern. Obviously, we don't want to lose value on the house, but this is a house that we plan on being in 30 years plus, he says, so it's kind of a long game. End of article. Well, I think that's a really important thing, how long you plan to stay in a home. And also their situation with having a child and another one on the way, I think makes one want to be more settled in a home. It's different than if your kids are grown, but everyone has different circumstances. I mean, there could be health issues involved, there's children involved, there's parents or grandparents nearby. It can be a total family decision, school districts. There's so many things that go into wanting to own a home. But if you want to know my opinion about are we going to have a housing crash right now, my answer is no. The housing crash will come in a few years, but it's not right now. I think that time is closer to 2024 and 2025, which is only a couple years away. So if there's any way that you can rent for a few years and wait for prices to get better, I think it will make a lot of sense. Housing is a long-term decision, and it's really important that you take your long-term plans into account. If you're close to retirement age, think about, is this going to be your retirement home? If you're a younger person, is this the home where you want to raise your children? Is this the neighborhood and the school district you want to be in? If you're in the middle, it might be, are you close to your job? Do you have a shorter commute? Does it improve your quality of life? I think the one thing we can all see very clearly is that the housing market has not gotten back to normal since the pandemic. And we've seen stocks shoot up in value and then pull back dramatically. I think there's a point in time where we will see that in housing, but it's just not right now, in my opinion. We have a couple more years to go, so think about that in your strategy for maybe renting for a period of time if you have that luxury and waiting for better housing prices in a few years. If not, and a house is something you need right away, then try to get the best interest rate possible, lock in a fixed rate for the long term, and plan to hunker down and live there through all market cycles. And if you can buy something that you can fix up yourself and has some forced equity in it, that's a good way to go too. So I think this gave you some things to think about and chew on and hear what other people are doing so that you can make the savviest decisions possible. Check out more personal finance information on my website on my Wealth Mentoring Library page at lindapjones.com/podcasts. That's all for today. Until next time, live the good life and be wealthy and smart.
Thank you for listening to Be Wealthy and Smart with Linda P. Jones. Share the wealth and tell your family and friends about the show. Check out our website, blog, and social media for more riches at www.bewealthyandsmart.com.